Whoa! Welcome back to the studio, Ryan A.K.A BloodShot Airbrushing, and I don't mean to yell at you, but man, I am super pumped today. Oh, did I scare you? Come here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm yelling in the studio. I know. I'm pumped. I am seriously pumped. I'm super excited. This is something that has been in the works. This is something that has been in the works for months. And it's finally happened. It's finally here. It was a bit of an evolution to get here. Definitely a bit of a process, a learning curve that was crazy steep. But if you have never heard of the amazing product, and I say amazing because my god, it is the amazing product Lumilor, Lumilor. It's pretty new, so I'm not surprised if you've never heard of it. I've heard about it. I've been excited to work with it. This, my friends, is Lumilor. I kid you not, it is a light up paint. Now, this is the test bike. This is our first one. We've got a rear fender, we've got a gas tank, and we've got a little test sample. This is the first bike of many. Yeah. Now, the World of Wheels is coming to Calgary in about a week and a half, so our time crunch is... And this has to get done relatively quickly, so the idea that we've got for this isn't too crazy. A bit of masking just to unmask it. We're going to do some paneling. We've got such a huge volume area that is lit up. We may as well play with that. And like I said, it was an evolution. It wasn't our first idea to do this. But as we're working with the product and seeing how it lights up, and man, the possibilities. Oh yes, the possibilities. Guys, get in on this. So, what you see is the Lumilor turned on. The rear fender is off, and man, you can hook this up to a switch to where you can turn it on and off. You can also hook it up to a dimmer. I don't got that, so we're not gonna dim it, but you can. You can have consecutive where the first one lights on and then the second, and then daisy chain it down the row. Man, this paint is so crazy. So crazy. And when I say paint, it is just that, guys. This is a paint. Well, about 4 different types of paint, and in a 5-layer application. The fact that this even exists blows my mind. Seriously. Off, on, off, on. Crazy. Alright guys, I'm eager to get this started. I'm sure you are too. Let me flip you around and show you some of the tools that we will be using to get this little baby banged out. Bow. And maybe I'll show you the idea that I've kind of sketched for this one as well, so you get a hint where we're going. Man, tell me that isn't the craziest thing you have ever seen. So cool. Alright, so here's kind of my sketch for what we're going to do. Now, if you can imagine, the tank is going to be black, so this little cross coming over is going to be black, and then we're going to do some gray inserts with a blue middle, and same sort of thing on the top of the tank and the top of the rear fender. And as you can see, we had a little boo-boo when we were getting this done. I dropped it. I dropped it and dented. But we had to get her done, so we just bonded over top, and this is going to be where our cross section is going to come over, so it's all going to be hidden in black. Not to worry, you can actually blacken out this surface fairly easily. So what we've done, because this color doesn't come out the most beautiful when it's unlit, it's actually kind of an off gray. So what we've done for this is we've gone over it with a silver pearl, just to give it more of a silver tone and still allow that light to fight through. Now for the tools for today, masking means measuring, lots and lots of measuring. So I got my tailor's tape, I've got my metal ruler, I've got water Stabilo pencils. I've got black and white, depending on where I'm mapping it out on the black or the white is how I do. Now for this one, because this surface has actually electrified layers of paint, I do not want to be chasing my Xacto knife onto this and risk touching that circuit and breaking that current. So everything on here is going to be masked. We're going to be using our fine line, and I've got a bunch of varying sizes from 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. We've got 1/8 inch and then 1/16 inch. And I don't know if I'm going to be using all of them, but I've got them just in case. We've got your typical masking tape, double and single, and then I've got some vinyl that I've had cut out for this project. Harley-Davidson and some Willie G skulls. This bike is actually a crossbone, and some of you might know what that is. Some of you may not. And then we've got the shop, Busted Knuckle Motorcycle Shop. And we've got BloodShot Airbrushing. We got some gears that I got cut out, which we may use, we may not. This whole thing is kind of an evolution. Of course, we've got the masking paper to prevent overspray from getting where we don't want the paint to get. And that's what we're going to be pretty much doing today. I've got the paints for, I think we're going to hit those up in the next video. So I'll talk about those in the next video, along with my airbrush. Along with the test panel, and that. All right, let's get on to it. Battery in the box. In case you're wondering how it works, battery in the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? And first things first, we're gonna clean our surface, and this is my same cleaning / thinning solution, my Fantastik solution that I use for all my cleaning and thinning needs with my water-based paints. And next we delve into our first bit of measuring, and this is going to give us our center line, which is going to keep everything nice and symmetrical from side to side. And you saw me do a bit of measuring, and you saw me also use the body holes that are already there. Now you can continue using your water-soluble pencil. Just make sure that you do clean off those marks. They do tend to show up if you don't paint over top of them or clean them off. Or do what I did right there and just use a little bit of masking tape to mark off where you want your line to go rather than actually coloring on a line. It uses a bit more materials, but just keeps it nice and clean. And here is my corner hack, cutting corners as it were. You saw me trace out that corner, cut it out on just a regular piece of paper. This is just a memo pad, and taper down. And now we are going to follow said cut corner for the other side, and this keeps it nice and symmetrical without doing a whole lot of fussing and mussing. And then be sure to push her down with them sticky little fingers. And we can use that exact same corner cutout for the top of this design as well. And here's a handy little trick for cutting your tape without cutting your surface. Just lay that blade against that tape and pull that tape against that blade. Next, I quickly mask out a center line so that these guys can be laid in. Now, it's pretty important to know what you're doing with your design here. You're going to want to lay on what is going to be at the end of this process, your brightest parts, your brightest pieces. Those are going to be laid on first, and those are going to be saved till last. So as we get these guys transferred on, I'm just going to reiterate this point. Everything that you see me laying on here is going to be the brightest color. If we weren't using the light underneath, then we can just play off of the silver, so these will stay silver. And the rest of the bike will start to get toned down with a little bit of colors and candies. And then we will eventually peel these off, just keeping them the brightest part of the piece, making them look like they are the closest to you. We're going to be playing with some 3 dimensions on this one, looking to get a few over and under laps. And now you can kind of see me starting to map out the first hints of my crossover here. And Take your time. If you have to lift it up a few times, if you have to redo it a few times, this is the time you want to get it right. So take your time and measure twice, cut once. You know what I'm saying here, guys? Yeah, feel me? I'm sure you feel me. And here again, we are using that pulling the tape against the blade. In some cases, you are going to be looking at cutting, but just ever so gingerly chase that knife against that surface so that you're only cutting through the tape and not the paint below. Moving on, we are now into the 16th inch fine line. What you saw me using to map out the cross, that was the 8th inch. And again, keeping this little bit of a variance in size is going to help with our 3D design to give it some depth. Here you see me just sticking a piece of tape onto these corners. The reason why I do that is so that it doesn't pull back. This fine line tape being plastic and being stretchy, it can pull back given enough time. So I just throw a little bit of tape on there to hold it and keep it in line. Now, with the gas tank, once we get the cross mapped out on the one side, we need to, well, mirror it onto the other side. And one of the ways I like to do this is using a bit of tracing paper because I can see through it. And what I do is I just fold and crease, add little tabs of tape to hold those folds and creases in place. And then now you see me tracing out my design. And what I will do is I will burnish this on the other side, and burnishing is just a reverse tracing. So we're gonna take this guy, we're gonna take this guy off. We're gonna stick the tape on the other side. We're gonna do this with all of our tabs holding this in place, and this just assures us that it is going to be stuck in the same place on the other side. Flipper, sticker, measure if need be, and tracer. Like so. Easy breezy. Now, it may not be easy for you guys to see it, but it's definitely in person. It's definitely easy for me to follow that with my pinstripe tape. And that's all I got to do at this point. Just follow those lines with the pinstripe tape. Keeps it nice and easy. And when laying down pinstripe tape, you kind of want to keep a flow going. You don't want to stop too many times or you end up getting bumps and little hiccups in your lines. And here we'll kill the lights. And you can see this bad boy as she shines. Oh yeah. And now would be a good time just to have a good once over. Make sure that your pinstripes are within your lighted surface or on your silver base if you ain't got the lights. Yeah, alright, now we got the tank mapped up to the same stage as the rear fender. Now I did have to make some changes from the original design. I thought I had more space in here than I actually did. So we're basically doing the bottom and nixing the top. But hey, it's an evolution, and I did the very same process I did on the rear fender, where I mapped out one side of the corner, traced it out, cut it out, so I had a perfect match for the other side, and then reused it. Same with up here in my corners. And that's just one way to keep it symmetrical, and of course measuring my distances the entire time to make sure that everything is staying consistent. And that's my little spiel. So let's get back onto the grind. The next thing to do is this center shape here, which we're going to have on all four pieces. So I'm just going to map it out on this guy. You guys can see the process, and then I'll do the rest off camera. It's the same thing 4 times. Just masking and measuring a bunch of lines. I'm sure you get the rhymes. No rest for the wicked. And again, you see me measuring out a center line, and that just helps to keep everything symmetrical as we start building up this image. Now, I probably should have masked out this cross before I did that interior pinstripe, because it's gonna get in my way and I'm gonna have to cut it out eventually. So keep that in mind. You really do want to plan this and make sure that your images are going from top to bottom, or bottom to top, however you look at it. but in the proper sequence. It's important to have sequence. I guess it's kind of like a chess game. You want to be thinking 7 moves ahead of your opponent. On this one, my opponent got the best of me. We're going to say we lost a bishop on that move, but doesn't mean the game is lost. No. Just means we got to work a little harder. So as I was saying, I'm going to have to cut some of these lines out as I go, making sure that we have the correct flow. Oh yeah. What do you guys think so far? It's simple, and I know this is just a lot of masking, but it's with all this prep work and planning that the spraying will go down relatively quick. Ever mindful that you're laying it down in the correct process, from lightest to darkest, or from top to bottom, however you want to look at it. But we did talk about getting some gears in here. His logo has a little gear in it, so we're definitely gonna get one in there and match it up with his logo. This is some of the pre-cut vinyl, so it makes my life a lot easier, and one looked pretty good, so let's stick another one on there. I don't know, I think that's looking great. Let's stick another one on there, and this time we're using the transfer paper because this is a 3-part little gear. It's got the interior circles, 2-part, and then another, and then another, and oh my god, he's going crazy. It's all right, guys. It looks busier than it actually is. We're going to be peeling these up in sequence. Again, sequence being super important. And the darker ones are going to fade into the background, leaving some of the other ones to more of a foreground. And you'll see as we start spraying in video 2 how these get laid down. And hey, waste not, want not. Cutting out half that gear, but why throw it away? Right? Save a plastic tree. And onward and upward, guys. The evolution continues. I dug the way the gears looked at the bottom, so I brought them up to the top. Now for this bottommost graphic, we're kind of playing off a bit of a Tron sort of game board, fading off into the distance, and we're going to do a bit of a double effect here by using a thinner pinstripe to make our distance effect, and then we're going to use a thicker pinstripe to give us a bit of a step down. Really, there's not much to tell you about what I'm doing here, aside from, again, wherever I'm putting my cuts. For the most part, I'm trying to keep those cuts right on top of the underlying pinstripe tape. Just prevents those cuts from going through down to the base and removing any of the pieces that no longer are part of the image. And this is what we're left with. Bing! Bing, bing, bing! Man, what do you guys think? I think we're gonna wrap this one up right here. Couple handy little tips from the whole transfer tracing to get something from one side to another, to cut that tape against the blade rather than chasing a blade across your surface, and many other little here's and there's that I'll voice over and come up with as I go. As I do. The evolution, yes, the evolution of a project. How it started with a drawing, and sometimes our drawing changes form, and that's just the way she goes. It's okay. I'm okay with that. You gotta be okay. Change is not a bad thing. Alright, that's enough of that. Words of wisdom or something. Feel free, drop me a line if you have any questions. If you have anything you'd like to add, tick-tack-tack on that little keyboard and add your comments. I love to read them. I read them all, as you know, and reply to as many as I can, which is like all. It makes me feel good. And it's all about the army. I'm not just here for you guys are here for one another, the comments back and forth, the feedback to me, the feedback to each other. There's some questions that I just can't answer because, I mean, I'm honest. I'm not going to make up an answer if I don't know. I'll just say, well. So it's nice to see other people getting in there and answering these things that I just don't have the answers for. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Keep it real. Alright guys, and with that being said, I think it's time for me to get some shut-eye, crawl into bed, and we will tackle the paint tomorrow. And in the next video. So please, as I said, drop me a line if there's anything you want to know that I didn't cover in the show. And until next time, like, follow, subscribe. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Cheers. Man, that just never gets old. Dun 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 dun. Alright, lost my connection. There it is. Cheers! From me to you. Adios. Man, feel free to drop by the Spreadshirt page. There's a link in the description. And feel free to grab yourself up a BloodShot uniform. There are a couple new designs out to see. And as always, guys, we've got airbrushing hacks, airbrushing for beginners, and project tutorials. Tell the world the BloodShot Army is here to spray.